a director cannot come and cheat me. When a director or a filmmaker comes to me with a story, I immediately know how honest they are, even if they have not written it.
How safe it is for women, in not just in Malayalam industry, but the other industries that you work in?
I don't think it's a safe space at all. For the past 7.5 years, I think that has been the endeavor of WCC to be a watchdog. In terms of legal protection, harassment is not just restricted to sexual harassment, it also expands to things like bullying. A large part of the issues which assistant directors, for instance, have is that their directors constantly harass them and they make them, get everything from, polish their shoes to get them tea to they're literally treated like slaves. Even the Hindi film industry, which has contracts and things in place. So, and therefore a lot of exploitation takes place because people think the exploitation is the way of life. There is some moments in life, and I think that's why the 2017 incident stands as a marker, at least in the conscience of Kerala society. Thanks to the JHC report, many others are acknowledging their truth. And therefore they are asking for what is rightfully theirs. It's not like, oh, you're serving a great justice. You're a human being, you've got to be treated like a human being, and it's got to be treated like a workplace. And workplace rights are for all. I think we should be more empathetic towards our responses of our male colleagues who are pretty illiterate. But the problem happens when they are refusing to educate themselves. So I think the change is inevitable. How fast will it take place is something that we'll have to see how it unfolds.
A very warm welcome to all the viewers of the week. Today I have with me versatile actor, dancer, environmentalist, an ardent advocate of gender equality, and the co-founder of Women's Cinema Collective, Padmapriya. Welcome, Padmapriya.
Hi, Anugraha.
Hi. So, how are you? How are you? Are you enjoying the fest?
I am enjoying the literature fest, and I'm suddenly come from 3 degrees to I don't know what I feel like 70 degrees right now. But yes, otherwise, I'm doing good.
Okay. I'm jumping straight to the question is about art. So, how has art defined you as a person, as an actor, and as a dancer? How has it defined you?
Everything actually. I don't see myself as a dancer or a theatre actor or a film actor differently. They're different mediums. They have different technicalities, different kind of grammar, and therefore different aesthetics, right? But at the end, I feel like all of them are storytelling spaces. I started dancing at the age of 3. So literally whoever I am is because of art. A lot of it, even dance, for instance, I practice art form called Bharatnatyam, right? And today, of course, there's a very interesting history of Bharatnatyam itself. We know that there's a Devdasi movement, there's a Sadir movement which happened, and dance has a long, very traditional dance, traditional Indian dance, not just Bharatnatyam, whether it's Kathak or whatever, have a very deep history in India. And a lot of it comes because of the fact that we are very diverse. We have been a country of invasions, and a lot of our culture there is nothing called Indian which is not coming from the space of, this multiculturalism. And while Bharatnatyam immediately reminds us of a certain kind of an aesthetic, dance is not away from literature, right? It's an integral part of it is the kind of poetry, the kind of music, the kind of songs that gets spoken. And for me, it's been an interesting journey because now, when I started learning dance, it was a time when, bhakti was not such an integral aspect of doing Bharatnatyam. Okay. It was mostly about love and romance and Shringara as a ras. We have 9 rasas for people who don't know. There are 9 rasas in Bharatnatyam, and generally in dance, in Indian dance, we classify it into 9 rasas or expressions, or in layman language, it's the dominant emotion, right? And all my time, though I was a kid, I used to be always struggling because at the age of 10, I'm playing, the second lover of my hero and things like that. And so for me, it was fascinating that in a setup where my parents are a monogamous relationship, I am doing something which is completely contrast to it, and everybody is celebrating it, and I'm doing it in a temple. But I also seen that shift where it's become more about bhakti today. And again, I see that my generation of dancers are challenging that and saying that stories in Bharatnatyam can be of worship and faith, We were seeing that with TM Krishna talking about it, but it can also be a space of protest, it can also be a space of expression, because that's what art does, right? So, in a large way, my participation in public policy or as an academician or gender rights is informed by art. And in many ways, my art is also informed by what happens in my other space. It's a similar thing with my movies. Like, I still remember when I was talking about mining rights, studying about mining rights and environmental law. At that time, I was doing a film called Parashi Raja, when I was, kind of understanding the sociological perspective of being a tribal, like, the socio-cultural space of being a tribal, which is very different from, say, when you are like doing, like understanding mining laws. But somewhere they all intersect, because the law doesn't come from a space of vacuum. It comes from this socio-cultural space. And I think that kind of an engagement was so unique. I still remember my now partner, Jasmine, the way he kind of caught on to, wanting to meet me. We were both studying public policy in the US. And the way he wanted to meet me was he saw my resume and saying, what is an actor, dancer, like doing in a public policy school? And what is she doing, like studying environmental law? But I have never seen them as separate spaces. Life informs art, art informs life, and that's how I am, and it will continue to be so for me. That's how I will grow both as a human and as a performer and as an academician.
So you love to read. You are a voracious reader.
Yes.
So does that come in when you pick scripts? When that literature thing, does it come?
Absolutely, 100,000%. A director cannot come and cheat me. I think one of the reasons I probably, so far at least, had it, easy is because I know the writer's mind. I have a very deep relationship with writers. I don't write myself. Like, I do write, but I don't write like a book, or like I don't like do long form writing like that way. So, but I do engage, since my childhood, I've always said this, like, my father was in the army, I'm an introvert. My best friend was playing chess and badminton with my brother, and read a book. My mother was actually surprised because my mom was a playful kid who hated books. So she would keep seeing me and my brother, who were like always bookworms, and she would say, "Stop studying, guys." Like, she's probably one of those, mothers who would say, "Why are you guys studying so much? Why are you guys trying to come first in class?" Like, I would get up at 5 in the morning, finish my homework and all that, so that I could have. I mean, I was a very much a play child also. I used to play a lot. I'm a dancer, so I like mobility and movement a lot. But I was an introvert, so, and because we kept moving and we never had friends, my best friend was always a book. So I understand the relationship that authors create with their characters and their worlds very well. So when a director or a filmmaker comes to me with a story, I immediately know how honest they are, even if they have not written it. Because at the end, in a way, it is a director's medium, and I want to know how, like for instance, I did this film called Tekkan Tale Case, and it is an adaptation of a short story, which is written by a prolific writer, and that story itself has has a very deep association for Malayalis, in at least in the reading community of Malayalis. So when that was being made into a film, I know that there was an immense pressure on the maker, but the maker was very clear. Like, every time I said, I want to read the story, I want to read the story, he was like, no, I don't want you to read the story, I don't want you to read the story, because I want you to see my perspective of it, because I want you to see, I want to see how I see Rukmini. And for me, that is the that is the catch point. When I don't see honesty in a story, I can like find it like that. Like, I know characters, I know how to read characters and worlds so easily. I know how to go into a maker's mind, that it makes it easy for me to like know whether this is a project that whose process I'll understand, like enjoy. And not just that, at the end the output also matters. That this person has a wherewithal to kind of lead this to a film that they imagine in their minds. Because one is to imagine a story in your mind, and the second is to actually make it. Like, a writer can be a great writer in their head, but unless they put it down in paper, it's not going to like be a great novel or a great book. So similarly, one of the best ways to judge is how well are you able to visualize the story and its characters and its world. And I think that comes from the fact that you read. I mean, it always helps to read a lot. Yeah? I mean, it always helps because you can kind of make sense of the world around you and the culture around you better.
So, in the light of WCC and the actor assault case, you've acted in like numbers of movie industries in India. So, do you think how safe it is for women in not just in Malayalam industry, but the other industries that you worked in?
I don't think it's a safe space at all. So, I mean, as a country, female and women are not safe. Safety and gender inequality index in this country, as India as a whole, we are one of the lowest performers in the world. So, so that's a major issue, because what happens is when there is, whether it's the RG car issue, whether it was, way back in 2000, the assault which happened, the Nirbhaya assault, laws have changed, come to reflect socio-cultural changes. We have pushed to address varied kinds of sexual harassment. But we are really not, like, our justice system is not trained. Like, even now when we are seeing with WCCs, with the JHC report, the Justice Hema Committee report coming out, and the SIT being formed by the Kerala government, a lot of women do not necessarily feel that the legal system as is a resolution for them, Now, we can't, like, really take everything to a court and then, to a like, even in the actor's assault case, you've seen it gone 7-8 years. So what happens to the life of a person? A decade of youth lost, right? Or a decade of whatever age or time that they belong to is lost. So I think that our justice systems are, first of all, not tailored at all for any kind of equity and safety for women generally. Now, when it comes to cinema, it's, I think, one step further, because it's a very organic gig industry. It's unorganized. A large part of its regulation or self-regulation, as it happens right now, happens through unions and associations. And this is not restricted to Malayalam. This is how it is across, whether you go to Tamil, you go to Telugu, you go to Hindi, you go to Marathi, you go to Calcutta, like Bengali film industry, everywhere, that's how it is. It is associations and unions who are trying to, like, because, it takes a village to get a right. So, you kind of like-minded people kind of congregate and make an association. The problem is that when that becomes a power structure, then that itself can lead to, instead of providing you rights, can involve, aggregation of serving the aggregated interest of the people who manage those associations. And that becomes a problem, right? And that becomes a problem from safety and access to rights. I mean, right to safety is another right. And so they start doing things which are technically illegal. So for instance, let me give you an example. Now in the process now, because a lot of the world, like outside Kerala, the conversation around, after the Me Too expose thing, the media outside Kerala has stopped reporting. Yes. But it's extremely important to understand that within Kerala, this is extremely alive. For the past 7.5 years, I think that has been the endeavor of WCC to be a watchdog, right? And we realized that one of the biggest, thing is that we have been constantly violating laws and rules in this country, in our industry. Apart from the Income Tax Act, we don't follow anything. And that is also because of complete lack of knowledge. Honestly, I have only come to know about it. We were speaking to a labor rights lawyer the other day, about a week back, and it's only a week back that I got educated that in this country, harassment is not just restricted to, legally speaking, in terms of legal protection, harassment is not just restricted to sexual harassment, it also expands to things like bullying. And that is very common in creative spaces, because it's I am this talented person and I can harass you and bully you. In any way, I can make you, like, I know that when I was sitting in the film policy committee hearings, a large part of the issues which assistant directors, for instance, have is that their directors constantly harass them and they make them, get everything from, polish their shoes to get them tea to, like, they're literally treated like slaves. We're only talking so far about, character actors who, come and do background, who do background acts and stuff. But everyone across the spectrum are kind of harassed and nobody even knows that that's illegal, because I myself did not know there is an anti-harassment, anti-bullying provision. Yes, they're all spread out. So that's probably in Industries Act. In Factories Act, they actually, I think the Shopkeepers Act, I'm not, like, I think I get the acts right. We realize that there's a thing on transportation being the onus of the employer, and that you cannot exclude a woman from working in the night post 8 p.m. and because they don't have transportation to go home. So it also not just talks about the fact that the employer has to provide transportation, but they also say that you cannot not include a woman because you're not providing transportation. So I think it's a it's a collective. What one needs to understand that a lot of that the industries across the country have been doing are illegal. From a more organized space like even the Hindi film industry, which has contracts and things in place. So, and therefore a lot of exploitation takes place because people think the exploitation is the way of life because it's been going on since forever. I think the effort should be is to say that it's an organic unorganized sector, but it has like there are different kinds of acts and provisions which are available. How do we kind of use all of that to make an umbrella of provision of safety, including POSH and other things, and how do we implement them? Who is the person responsible? Just because at no point of time other than the time when we are shooting there are 10 people involved, you cannot say POSH cannot be implemented. At the same time, because it's a creative space and filmmaking is a difficult industry to produce, how do you ensure that you can support the producer in ensuring the implementation of the law instead of just thrusting and say, hey, listen, you have to do it, do it. At the same time, the producer cannot say, oh my God, this is too much. I'm sorry, you have to pay tax, you have to pay tax. We live in a country, we live in boundaries, we follow modern laws, you are bound by the constitution, you have to pay tax. So, you can't say that I'll not pay GST because it is very difficult for me to follow the rules, right? Like it's just not possible. So, I think it's a two-way process that you provide an enabling environment for them to also, for the employers to also create a space and then, so all of this is completely missing across the country. And I think Kerala, hopefully the Film Policy Committee, what's happening in the High Court, etc., kind of really sets a new precedence, not just for the Malayalam film industry, but for other industries to emulate, so that the conversation goes beyond sexual harassment and actually solves the issues at the root cause. See, at the root cause, and a city like New York kind of got rid of hooliganism and rape because they kind of made sure that the police responds to it empathetically and immediately. And so the number of crimes against women has reduced dramatically from the 1940s to today. And that's why it's become considered to be a safe, like when I was studying there, I could like walk at 3 a.m. in the morning wearing anything and like not get raped. Like, I'm sorry to say this as is, but this is the truth. When I get out in Delhi or when I get out in any part of the country, my first thing is, how safe am I? Will I be assaulted? Will the driver next to me molest me? These are the first, and that can be in daytime also, right? Like I'm sitting, should I sit in the front seat or the back seat? The first thing my mother-in-law would say is, go sit in the back seat. Why? Because they're concerned that you should not be molested. So I think that the crime system and the management of the crime is something which is the responsibility of the government for holistically. But the fact that there is law, that those laws should be enabled, and hopefully with whatever is happening in the High Court proactively and in the policy committee, and the fact that WCC kind of watchdogs continue to remain, hopefully will change that narrative from Malayalam film industry, even if not in the immediate 6 months or whatever, but over it's a process over the coming decade, and I hope it sets a very important precedent for the other film industries to also follow.
Do you think the change is happening right now in the industry that after the report is
I think the conversation for change started happening, and that's a little different from 7.5 years back. Because 7.5 years back, I think the conversation was about the actor's assault and therefore people taking sides. Are you pro-WCC or you're anti-WCC? Are you pro-women or you're against women? But a lot of people don't realize that feminist rights are everybody's rights. So if I have, like I was giving an example in some other interview that day, that if you have a toilet, it's not just going to help women, it's going to help older male actors, it's going to help all kinds of people, right? It's just going to help people. And so it doesn't matter, like if you, in a set, like one of the major things that I realized was a lot of people were saying that actors get food in, proper hot cases while we get stale food, which is probably been made in the morning and given to us in the night. And my point is, if you keep people happy, you're going to make a better film. And so what WCC as a movement has started has basically initiated and created a conversation about rights. And sexual harassment is not the only constitutional, violation that we have seen. We have seen violation of slavery, and trust me, this is not just happening in Kerala. Because people don't even see this as slavery, they assume that's a status quo. So I feel like now, because everybody has started articulating the change, like I've seen like supporting actors who basically work as background actors, I have never, in my 10, 11 years of working in the industry, I have never engaged with them beyond saying, Chechi, Jeta, how are you, where do you come from, and all of that. I've never spoken to them about aspirations. They are now talking about not just providing contracts and getting a fair treatment, they're also saying like, how can we get a better opportunity to grow as an actor? You know, to go beyond a background actor to actually becoming an actor. Before it was like a dole out which is made to by a director who says, this person in the background is good, let's give them this scene. But go beyond that and say, how can that person who's working as a background actor actually come and play lead roles as well? Which means that we'll have to create a more diverse set of stories, we'll have to have more representation, we can't have the standard idea of who a hero is. And what marketability of films can be. And today I think it's an interesting time because all of what the content is made for and who can therefore partake has become far more democratic. You know, till yesterday, like until pre-COVID at least, only the people who could afford to go to the cinema theatres were your viewers, right? And then it came on television and therefore you purchased a television. Today, almost everybody has a phone. And today, almost every content that gets made gets translated and become available. So you have a poor person from a totally like disadvantaged caste, who could be a man or a woman or an LGBTQI spectrum community watching it. So the LGBTQI community will be like, after a point, like, I am sick of seeing cis community, like, sick of seeing roles which are being made for just a particular section of audience. So you have now a much far diverse audience. So as a community, there is also a demand for diverse content today. So, and that will not only change the kind of stories which are being made, but also will change therefore who is being represented on set and how we work. Unless we have somebody who's disabled come on set and work as a writer. I still remember that, I have a little organization and there was this person who came in who's a very young girl. She's about 22, 23. She's a scholar in gender rights and stuff. And then she was just filming something that we were making. And she said that I can't hear properly. So suddenly one had to be empathetic about the fact that we had to speak slowly, and that did not in any which way affect the quality of the output. It only improved it because I became empathetic to her, she became empathetic to us, and she understood what we wanted, and we still delivered the product in the same time, and there was a great learning experience for both of us. So, that's how inclusion and representation improves, and if we don't do it in artistic spaces, where will we do it, right? So, I feel like that change will happen because it has to happen because the demand side has changed a lot. The society is asking for different kinds of stories. You're seeing all kinds of stories being made internationally. They're like, why can't you make it? So, if filmmakers especially feel that they can exclude women and disadvantaged communities from their stories because laws have become more stringent, then the law of demand will make sure that they course correct. So, I think the change is inevitable. How fast will it take place is something that we'll have to see how it unfolds.
So the WCC came in 2017.
Yeah.
Why did you guys wait this long?
I don't know. That's a question we ask, I've made some very strong friendships. Not that we all in WCC are close to each other's friends.
You had an incident in 2007 in the Tamil film industry.
Yeah.
Then what? It's been a long time because there are women who's speaking about issues in the industry, in and out. So what happened?
That's a very good case study actually. I have no idea. I don't have a single point answer. But I guess sometimes, the only way to explain something is, there are fire incidents which happen day in, day out in this country. Children die in those fire incidents. But why is it that the Upahar cinema in Delhi, when so many kids just got burnt alive and a lot of people died also, why is it that the Upahar cinema incident stands out as a marker of justice for getting better fire rules in spaces where public congregates? Why is it that Nirbhaya stands out in terms of what kind of rape laws are brought in? Why is it that you need a Bhavri Devi to bring in a POSH Act? In spite of the fact that Bhavri Devi never got justice, it's such an irony, right, in this country. it's difficult to say that, like, and it's not like I was the only one who was voicing it. I don't want to sound like this person who was the most righteous or anything like that. I know Parvati was talking about it, and Rima was very outspoken. I know Beena was outspoken in her space. I know that Anjali was very, very, very particular about the kind of workspace Didi, for instance, has been a gender rights person, and we all knew each other. Like, I know Rima even before, like, I entered films. I know her as a dancer, and we actually connected through art that way. So it's a very interesting question, but like I think it's a moment in time, right? Like it's like those were sporadic responses which got sporadic support. It's not like my female colleagues and male colleagues didn't support me at that time. I remember when Nazria pointed that as an issue of what kind of clothes the song sequence she wants to do. And that time there was no social media. I remember standing up for her. I remember, and not just me, I remember other colleagues standing up for her. But it's always been seen as a scandal and a controversy, and so there is always a culture of silence, right? But there is some moments in life, and I think that's why the 2017 incident stands as a marker, at least in the conscience of Kerala society, that it became like something which shifted for everybody. It's not something which, before it would have been looked like, this is a controversy which happened to a actor. It became like an issue which resonated with all. And somehow we latched on to it, and then when we met the first time, and at that point we had no intention of making a collective or anything. We were still always thinking about the survivor. And when we met and suddenly, I spoke about my fears, my challenges, and the other women spoke about the first time when we met, after 20 days of, kind of bringing a WhatsApp group together for the survivor. The first time we met in Kochi, I remember that, we were like, oh, we can't do anything because legally it's a sub judice case and this is the only thing we can do. And then we were like sitting, it's not like the government letter which we went to in 2017 to CM Pinarayi Vijayan at that point was planned. We were just sitting and we didn't know how to pass time. And then suddenly we started, the first time murmurs which were always gossip in the industry became like an open conversation. First time, like 20 odd fierce women were sitting together, allaying their fears and then hearing other people's fears. And then we felt that, it doesn't matter if you're an editor, a makeup person, a director, an actor. What matters is the fact that we've all been affected by the naysayers who say that, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't achieve this, you can't achieve that. Constantly said that the film cannot become, you are dark, you're curly hair, you're like tall, or like you're a female editor, so you have to be like a little more like, reserved. You do like behave like a guy as a director. You do wear, jeans if you're a director, if you're a woman also, or like this entire masculine projection. And all of these kind of fears and sharing of fears, somewhere I think we found our truth. And then once you find your truth, right? I know people like really underscore a lot on bravery and strength and courage, but I think the most important word is truth. Once you find your truth, everything else follows. And we had no idea what repercussions are going to be, and we are going to have, we never thought we were like in Malayalam they call buddhijeevis or anything. We're not that. We were just being true. And somehow in that process of us acknowledging our truth, thanks to JHC report, many others are acknowledging their truth. And therefore they're asking for what is rightfully theirs. It's not like, you're serving a great justice. You're a human being, you've got to be treated like a human being, and it's got to be treated like a workplace. And, workplace rights are for all. And I know it's like what WCC say done in the last 7.5 years is remarkable. But I think now it's really up to the industry as to what it does for its own people. And because as artists, we are the moral compass of the society, let us see what we can do both in terms of the stories we say and how we make them.
We're keeping WCC aside and everything. Coming back to your husband has recently published a book, The Delhi Model, based on the Aam Aadmi Party and all of
Their work.
Then the work. So he's been in active politics for some time.
Yes.
What I just want to ask you, how is your role in his political journey?
Nothing but that of a partner. I mean, I'm not an active politician by any stand. I can tomorrow vote for Congress or some other independent actor, depending on who my representative is. I'm not stuck to this, that's the beauty of a good relationship or a healthy relationship, that you're the best sounding board, that you don't trust yourself and your ideas to every person. Of course, what is common between each other is that we do believe in diversity, we do believe in inclusion, we do believe in rights. Jasmine's journey, I mean, given a chance, if he was in corporate space or if he used his academic degrees, he would be earning like a very fat salary, leading a very plush life. But it's a choice that he has made, and that value binds me to him. To me, I was like mentally married to him the day I met him, but I did not know he was going to active politics. He did not know that he was going into active politics, right? I just knew that this person will never do something to harm another human being. And it's those values, and we had middle class values. We've both grown up as middle class parents, kids, and that's what connects me to him. And the book that he's published, The Delhi Model, I'm going to be shameless and sell it. Please do buy a copy of it, because I've been part of the journey of writing that book, and I've seen, I've seen his journey as a writer. And more than that, for the first time, I have been he has been actively part of a lot of the policy changes that the government has brought in. And I have seen the soul and spirit with which he has been part of those. But writing that book made me realize that I did not know much of that work cohesively, like he puts it, and how important that is. Because as Aam Aadmi, as people who are voting, we really don't understand what goes behind bringing a governance change. And like, for instance, how much we take away, we've lost Manmohan Singh today, but Manmohanomics pretty much changed our lives. We are a globalized consumerist society from a very socialist, non-consumerist society today because of the economics that he brought about. The socio-cultural ethos of the country has changed across because of that. That's a policy, that's what the impact of public policy is in our day-to-day lives. What Metro did to Delhi in terms of transportation and therefore job opportunities, therefore gender representation, therefore safe access to travel, it's an important thing to acknowledge. And so for me, the fact that he took the time to write this book across different sectors, what free power does in terms of, people talk about free power as a freebie in this country. But providing free power doesn't come easy, right? And providing free power for 10 years is a difficult task. And how smart they have been as economic planners of a state which has also public money in mind. And the fact that the most underprivileged are the ones, or the most disempowered are the ones who get those 200 units free, completely changes the social mobility of the people who are studying under street lamps, who can't afford gensets. Until the Aam Aadmi Party came into power, and I'm not like propagating Aam Aadmi Party here because the Delhi elections are coming. Please make your choices wisely. But I think one of the great things that they had, I have my own qualms about them, but one of the great things that they have done by giving power is that kids who are going to good schools, fine, make great schools, what Manish ji has done, great. But like, if they don't come back home and have a space where they can have power, where they can sleep and sleep comfortably, and they have access to heater in a state where extreme temperatures exist, where they can afford to have a heater and they can afford to have a cooler, and they can afford to have lights, increases your social mobility and performance in school as a child. And I think that's a perspective which nobody has understood, that human development is as important. And for me, that kind of a moral conscience which Jasmine has is what connects me to him. That he's an active politician is of limited interest. The fact that he uses that as a tool to do what his moral compass is what makes me get attracted to him, apart from the fact that I think he's very hot physically. So yeah.
Many might not know that you have a master's degree in public administration and policy. So,
by the way, whenever I say that, they call me Ahangari. So, so yeah, I don't know how being more educated becomes Ahangari, but yeah, Ahangari is arrogance for the English viewers. Yeah.
So, can we expect you in politics in the future, or would you like to come into?
Oh my God! See, I am an artist at heart. Being a politician requires a different heart altogether. I'm a soft-hearted person. There is a lot of patience. I have tried to volunteer in some of the policy making processes, and I can tell you it's a very difficult job. Just because you have a public presence, that does not, that cannot be the reason why you become a politician, right? And just because you want to do good for the people is not just sufficient reason for you to be in politics. But in life, I will never say never because I said I'll never get married, I got married. I said I will never get into films, I got into films. I said I'll never come back to films, I'm back here. So I'm like, I'm not going to make any of these commitments in public because I don't know what life has in store for me. But I can only say this, that whatever I do, I will do it with my full heart and soul. And I'll do it because I honestly, truthfully believe in it. And when I feel like I'm not doing the best in it, like I did take a break from films and I felt I was like jaded as an actor, as a person, and I was not delivering much. And I took a break, and now that I'm back to it, I can just honestly say that I will do my best in whatever I do at that point of time.
So, if you had the chance to bring in one law that that you think is necessary right now, and you have to take out one law that is like absolute rubbish or no, it's not needed, what are the two laws that you would do?
I don't know if it's a law, but like definitely implement right away the representation of women in politics. Make it 51% right away. The current polity is happily subverted the conversation and rested it for the next 10 years. I want it to be implemented now. The law which I want to remove is the law is to decriminalize LGBTQIA plus community being able to marry each other. Yes.
Okay, so you have a postgraduate diploma in environmental law.
I mean, that's a law which I would like to get added because it's really unfortunate that, yeah.
So, as an environmentalist, what are some specific causes that you are very passionate about?
Lots of them, but specifically I'm a nature lover. So much so that when I have to travel nowadays, I like really think about my carbon footprint. So I really make sure that unless I'm doing domestic travel as much as possible, I do not go anything more than economy. If I can, I do take a train, I do take a public transport as much as possible, or I do choose more sustainable forms of private transport. So I'm very close to nature, and I believe that we are really ruining the world. I'm a farmer. I like to grow my vegetables and fruits. I'm not.
You have a video on Instagram.
No, I did not. So I came into Instagram very late, like just a year back, right? So I remember sitting in a flight, and then somebody said, "Oh, Ringa, you do krishi, And I'm like, "How do you know?" I didn't realize that people, I just made something randomly. So yeah, it seems
By
like.
the way, how are those plants and vegetables doing?
They do. I mean, I just don't grow for myself. It's also the act of giving, right? Like, and I can see like winter has changed in Delhi so much. Like winter vegetables are like, winter is when you grow like all kinds of vegetables in the north. All this palak, chira and all of that. Like green vegetables is something which unfortunately does not grow very well in this, rainy season and summer season in Delhi so much. So, winter is when you have this entire spectrum of vegetables, but because winters got delayed, and then winter when it comes, because it's delayed, it comes like and suddenly hits. So vegetables do not get enough, seeds don't get enough time to sprout, grow, get nourished. And these are things which really affect me because people don't understand that, this food, because, it's not like previous times, we are so used to getting water in our taps, we are so used to getting food in our malls. We've forgotten where the source of all of this is. And so there's an extreme amount of wastage. And I remember taking an environmental climate resilience class when I was studying public policy. It was a 2-credit class. And I remember the last exercise, the last two classes was dedicated to an exercise where all of us were made part of this UN, this entire, you have this once a year, let's save the planet kind of a UN meet. So we were all made part of different countries and stuff. And then the problem to solve was that find the most optimal way to preserve the earth. And we realized that there's no way to preserve the earth unless we go completely organic and we completely reduce our consumption. And reducing consumption can be done through policies, but it has to be done by human beings. I have to reduce my carbon footprint. So my engagement, I think, the reason I studied environmental law and perhaps even public policies, that there are two sectors that really that I am close to is environment and culture, and these are the most rejected ones, and these are the ones which are going to most affect what we eat, how we drink, how we lead our lives, and for what we lead our lives. You know, culture gives purpose, environment gives the means for us to lead our lives. And in the absence of us paying any attention to either of them, I feel these are the two spaces which need most attention today.
Okay. I'm coming down to my last two questions. Is that when the Hema Committee report came out, everybody was talking about it. All the media was covering it, and they were all looking at Malayalam industry, especially the big M's. They were talking people wanted to know what their reaction was. How did they
And
respond?
rightly
to it.
so, they earn the maximum of the industry's pie.
So Mammootty sir came in with the FP post. Mohan sir came in a press release, in an event when he talked to the press. But for a part of the people that I believe in, they weren't satisfied. They weren't satisfied with the answers or that
Their response.
Their response.
And not just them, even the other male actors who are earning a fair amount of the revenues of the industry, yes. You know, I mean, I think the fact that you are not getting to speak to them and you have to only speak to me, it's also a one-sided view. And I think we also should develop an ecosystem where we call out people a little more empathetically. Because otherwise then people will stop speaking out. I have myself become very sensitive about what I speak, because I have also grown up in a patriarchal environment. Yes, I have been brought up in a far more liberal space. But you think my mother was not affected by patriarchy, or she was not affected by the choices that she could make? She always wanted to be air hostess, but she got married at the age of 19. Right? And she had me when she was hardly like 21, 22. So, was that because that was a choice that she made? No, because that was a choice of just trust. So, and that's not just applicable for my mother, it's probably even applicable for my father, like getting married to a much younger girl, like he would have liked to get married to an older woman, but then, this is something which is how the construct of the society is. So, I think we should be more empathetic towards our responses of our male colleagues who are pretty illiterate, but the problem happens when they are refusing to educate themselves. When they're refusing to, when they're continuing to believe and lead a life of ignorance and denial. That's where the problem is. And let's not restrict the conversation, and why we should expect the two big M's, or let's call out their names what it is, right? Let's say Mammootty, Mohanlal. But not only that, I think we should have an entire slew of young actors who are earning a damn good pay packet at the cost of all of us. And I think all of us, I'm not just talking about female actors, I'm talking about everybody down the line, from, who don't get paid, who get paid in this gig economy, who get an opportunity, don't get an opportunity. That they have to speak up for them, because they're part of the economy. They're part of that industry. And if they don't lead the way, then they're not going to inspire the others to lead the way. And I mean, today, of course, change is inevitable, because they have started saying that if you don't we will fight for our own rights. But that's not a sufficiently constructive space for change. If you want a constructive space for change, everybody has to engage. Not partake because you have to make a politically correct statement, but engage with an issue and say, this is something I am okay with, this is what I don't understand. Then the other person will say, unless there's a space of dialogue, that this is why I feel this is wrong, then the other person will say, but this is what I feel about it, or this is, they may not even be knowledge. There's so many things, I'll tell you, Anugraha, in the process of these 7.5 years that I have realized is flawed and correct about me, that unless I had chosen to be part of that dialogue, today I may make a wrong statement, but the way to engage with me, therefore, is not say you're foolish because you're wrong, but to say, hey, listen, this is perhaps another way of looking at it. And this is perhaps a more righteous way for me. What do you think about it? I think it's important to start creating that space of dialogue, and unless these people start speaking out and start feeling comfortable about speaking out, then the change won't happen. And that comes back to saying that if you're not speaking out, then perhaps you're guilty. Right?
It is. Yeah. So I'm coming down to my last question. You wear a lot of hats. You're an environmentalist, you're a dancer, actor, like an academician. If I were to ask you to pick one hat that is Padmapriya as heart and soul, what would it be? Or does everything, all of these hats make Padmapriya?
All of them make me, but I think the act of being human, right? That's the choice that decides what you want to be. Whether you want to be an artist, you want to study, or you want to, engage in this conversation today afternoon. So I feel like the act of being human is what makes us all unique.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It was wonderful talking to you.
Thank you.